Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Hear Me Out. Haven't done one of those in a while. As you can see, made a little bit of a change to the background. I know I took care of those lights. Some of y'all have been telling me in the comments to fix that. So I did just that and have just a little MDK flag in the background. But let's talk about the topic for today's video, and this is about NASCAR itself. So I've been a NASCAR fan since 2009. I first started watching in 2009, really got into it in 2010, and it's been more than a decade. But I can say throughout that entire decade, I've never been happier to be a NASCAR fan than this year, which says a lot considering that 3-4 years ago, 2017 and 2019, I didn't have that same passion for NASCAR. I was still doing YouTube videos about it, but I didn't have that same passion. I was more watching it for Jimmy Johnson than I was just for NASCAR itself. I didn't really care about the racing, I just cared about my driver. And I think a lot of people can say the same thing about the sport. During that time, during the Monster Energy Cup Series era, the sport just felt lost. There was no sense of direction. There was no light at the end of the tunnel that said things are going to get better. The sport was just there. Ratings was going down, attendance was going down, and the racing was getting worse and worse every year. And you're seeing star power leaving left, right, and center during that period of time. And it just felt that nothing was happening. Nothing was gonna come out of nowhere and be a rejuvenated spark that NASCAR needed. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the comments are gonna feel that way, including myself. But the past few years, 1-2 years, I felt my love of NASCAR grown even more to a point where I've never felt this type of way about NASCAR in any other year. Even back when I was like 8-9 years old in the early 2010s, I didn't have that feeling of NASCAR that I do now. Usually during the off season, it's a chance, to chill, relax, take a break. But for me, about a week or two later, after the season ended at Phoenix, I wanted NASCAR to get back up and running again. So why is that? How did I go from being in love with the sport to it being my everything to then slowly growing out of it to then being roped back into it? And YouTube didn't really play a role in this. Yes, I was making videos, but still, I was making videos just for the sake of making videos, just making content, but I didn't really have that passion. This time I do. The past couple of seasons I've had this passion to do more NASCAR things. Why is that? And I want to explain why I think this time is the best time to be a NASCAR fan than in any of the year of this decade or the previous decade in the 2010s. And it has to do all with this new era of NASCAR. You can break up NASCAR into two different eras: pre-Brian France and post-Brian France. First off, let's start off with NASCAR, the organization themselves. Again, like I said, during the final few years of the Brian France era, it just felt that the sport was just going down and there was nothing that was going to stop. It just felt like an everlasting fall right into the ground. And it really hit rock bottom when Brian France was arrested in August of 2017. But this new era of NASCAR feels a lot different. NASCAR, in my opinion, this new era of NASCAR is more open and more accepting to today's society. Number one, of course, most importantly, diversity, inclusion, how NASCAR handles social issues. It's pretty evident that NASCAR's had a real shady past back then when dealing with not even black people, just minorities in general. And now you look at today's NASCAR, and while there is still much progress that's need to be made, I'm not saying that NASCAR has made it. There's still a lot of progress that need to and should and will be made about the sport when it comes to diversity and inclusion. However, you look at today's NASCAR and you look at the fans and the people that are talking about the sport. You would not expect those types of fans to be watching NASCAR. I didn't even expect the type of people I see watch NASCAR nowadays. You won't expect them to watch it 3-4 years ago. But what happened in 2020 and Bubba Wallace sort of changed that, changed the direction and the perspective of NASCAR to not only current fans, but also to fans that knew nothing about the sport and wanted to be invested into it. Like Alvin Kamara is a perfect example, a person that wanted nothing to do with NASCAR, knew nothing about NASCAR, and all of a sudden watches the races and even works at it. Bernard Pollard Jr. I'm listing off a bunch of celebrities / athletes, but still the point remains that people that you're not expecting to be involved in sport are. And that adds a rejuvenated spark of interest to not only, like I said, outside fans that know nothing about the sport, but also fans that have been watching for a long time. I know when I see people like those that I just mentioned watching the sport and other people that look like me or don't look like the usual type of fans start watching the sport, to me, that makes me interested. That makes me think like, wow, this sport is really growing. It's really changing and it feels more accepting. Speaking of open, not only do I think that this new era of NASCAR is more open to change off the racetrack, also on the racetrack. the schedule. There was a point in time in the 2010s where we would be glad just to see something change on the schedule. In 2011, the big change, of course, was Kentucky getting a race date. You then have to wait probably till 2015 until Darlington gets back at Southern 500 on Labor Day weekend, and then wait another 3 years for the Charlotte Roval in 2018. That was really it for the 2010s. That was all the big changes we saw in the schedule. It became just expected that every single year, all right, there was some years we don't even need the schedule. We could just go back to the last year's schedule and just repeat the process. But this new era of NASCAR is completely different. This new era of NASCAR is willing to try out new things, even if it fails. A lot of people are criticizing NASCAR for some of the changes they made on the schedule. And while that is understandable, I, for one, I like the changes. I like that they're trying something new. If it failed, yeah, they failed, okay. But I'd rather them try something different, try something new and exciting than just repeat the same thing over and over and over again. Perfect example, we saw at the Clash at the Coliseum. I'm pretty sure 95% of the people that heard about this thought this was going to be an epic failure. And it actually ended up being a success, and it saved the Busch Clash, which was literally on the brink of death before that announcement was made. Things that you never expect NASCAR to do, they're doing it. I mentioned the Clash at the Coliseum. North Wilkesboro. Did anybody have North Wilkesboro on their mind even 2 years ago? No. Well, except for your Dale Earnhardt Jr. But the point is, nobody expected these types of changes to happen, which I think makes future seasons much more exciting. Anticipate what does the future hold for the sport? Because look at where we're going this year. We're going to the Clash of the Coliseum. We're returning there. We're going back to our roots at North Wilkesboro, and we're going to a street race in Chicago. Again, I know there's a lot of criticism with NASCAR going to downtown Chicago and Chicagoland Speedway. And I've said this numerous times. I like that we're going to a street race. I like that we're going to a big time city in Chicago and racing there to hold a street race. I love that. Yeah, I do wish it wasn't at the expense of Road America or considering Chicagoland still there, but the point remains the same. I love that NASCAR's trying new things and actually diversifying the sport so that every week is something different. Again, we go back 10 years ago, you could expect the same thing. Oh, we're going to run 4 or 5 mile-and-a-half racetracks back to back to back, 2 short tracks, and then we're going back to, 1 road course and back to the traditional mile-and-a-half tracks. This year, it's you have a mile and a half, you have a short track, you have a dirt race, you have a street race, you have a road course, super speedway. You're having so many different types of tracks. Almost every single week is something new and it's a different challenge, which makes leading up to the race more entertaining. Even if the race itself is not exciting, it's something different. I mean, look at reports. You're hearing that NASCAR maybe consider going to international races next year or the year after, maybe racing at Montreal or Mexico. Changes like that keep the schedule fresh, keeps the mystery afloat about what else will NASCAR do? What else will NASCAR try and go to? And I love that. I love that we don't know what we're expecting. I think that's the beauty about NASCAR is that you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what's going to happen. And I think having this new era of NASCAR that is open to change, open to go to places that no one thought that they would even go to. It's like in years past, NASCAR was put in a box that you're only meant for short tracks, you're only meant for speedways, you're only meant to turn left. This new era of NASCAR is saying, let's try whatever. Let's try anything and everything. Let's race on dirt. Okay, let's go back to our roots in North Wilkesboro. Cool. Let's race on a street race. Awesome. You know, let's try something new. Let's add a bit of flair, add a bit of spice to things. Another part I like is the next gen car. No, don't get me wrong. There is still a lot of issues with the next gen car, safety issues, and some things that need to be worked out in the racing area. Currently at the time of this recording, NASCAR is trying to find a way to fix that, trying out different aero packages, maybe even going to a no spoiler package, considering how low the spoiler could be now this year. They're trying different things to make the racing better. Look at last year. Look at the different types of drivers that we saw come up and challenge and win races. Drivers like Eric Jones. No one thought he would win. No one thought that Petty GMS, or now Legacy Motor Club, would win a race. That's not Daytona or Talladega. Seeing new faces come up and win races like Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, and Daniel Suarez, just to name a few, that drivers that you don't expect to win races or to be up front, and now all of a sudden slamming out of park and being potentially maybe weekly contenders to at the very least have a top 10 finish. And it's not the same usual suspects of what we saw in the early 2010s of the same drivers that you expect to win. Not to the point like Formula 1, but you have a general idea. Although there's a lot that needs to be fixed about the next gen car, I do like the direction that it's going in terms of the on-track racing. This car is much better than the previous car in a lot of areas. It looks cooler, sounds cooler, and it does race better on portion of racetracks. The mile and a half racetracks that were basically the butt of NASCAR for years are the best thing now. Yes, there are some things that need to be worked on, like short tracks and road courses in a sense, but even the super speedways, the previous super speedway packages, although while entertaining, ended up being wreckfest. Now you still have entertaining racing, but it's more of a controlled chaos. It's much more enjoyable to watch than in years past, in my opinion. So there's a lot of good things to look forward to with this next gen car. And also the drivers themselves. I know there is always that lack of personality that NASCAR's had. And I'm not saying that the personality that we have now is equal to the one that we have in the 90s and early 2000s, like Stewart, Harvick, Gordon, Earnhardt Jr., Earnhardt Sr., and those drivers. I'm not saying it's to that level, but you do look at some of the drivers that are coming up. Daniel Suarez from Monterrey, Mexico, not only can drive, he can win races, but he has an incredible personality. Bubba Wallace, the Melon Man, Ross Chastain, doing the Hail Melon at Martinsville, for God's sakes. Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, new drivers like that. Yes, it's not to the level that it was back then, but they're still very entertaining drivers from completely different backgrounds that I think can cater to a lot of new fans. And as those things come together, not only the on-track product, but what NASCAR is doing off-track, what they're doing to help be more diverse, be more inclusive to a younger audience. And it is working, although slow grow pace. Ratings are up, although slightly. Attendance is up. Everything's going up, although slowly. It's still going up. And that's the most important thing. Now, NASCAR is by no means perfect. There are still a lot of things that need to be worked on. I can't stress that enough. I'm not saying that NASCAR is the best, not saying NASCAR is #1 right now in its history. I'm not saying that at all. But when I look at NASCAR where it was in 2017, 2018, compared to where it was now, I can honestly say, as being a fan for more than a decade, this is the happiest I've ever been as a NASCAR fan. Not only now, but for the future. I cannot wait what 2023 brings. And I cannot wait what 24, 25, what the future brings for the sport. That is not something I could say a few years ago. Back then, I could say, I hope everything goes good, but I don't know what the future holds. Now, I may not know what the future holds, but I can say I'm sure excited for it. It may not be the NASCAR you like back then. I know there's some things that we wish back then that we can bring back in today's era. Maybe get rid of stage racing, get rid of the playoff system. Yeah, there's still some things that we would like from previous NASCAR, but when I take a look at today's NASCAR compared to where it was just a few years ago, I couldn't be happier with the direction that NASCAR is going. Today's NASCAR is a more inclusive, more accepting, more unpredictable, and more exciting NASCAR than it has been in years. And that's why I think it's now a perfect time to join the sport. I'm not saying you have to like it, but just check it out. For anyone that's new watching about NASCAR, just learning about NASCAR. If you haven't, I consider you check it out. There's a lot of things that I think that you'll enjoy. But yeah, thank you so much for hearing me out. Tell me know what you think about my opinion in the comment section down below. And what are your thoughts on NASCAR? What are your thoughts on being a NASCAR fan in today's time than how you felt in years past? I cannot wait for the season to begin. I'm going to be in Los Angeles for the Clash at the Coliseum. And yeah, I'm excited. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is JettMDK. Next weekend, either this week or next weekend, I will post a preview to everything you need to know for the 2023 NASCAR season, so make sure you be on the lookout for that. My name is JettMDK. Thanks for watching.